What's up, everyone? Welcome to Backlog and Beyond, the podcast where we talk about the old video games we want to beat and the new ones we play instead. I'm your host, Jeff Zavatero.
And I'm your other host, Nathan Hawkins, and this is episode 8, or 8.
Yep. And we have some major spoiler talk today. We're going to be discussing The Last of Us 2.
Yep.
So we pretty much cleared our docket. No news today. We're going to be spending the whole time talking about this because I assume it's the only game besides the Given an Hour game that you've played this week.
Right. Yeah, no, this was it. I mean, I just beat it on Friday. It was really unfortunate because, like, Thursday morning, I was so... Friday morning, I was so close, and I was at the final fight scene or whatever, and...
You mean in the theater?
No, the final fight scene this Friday. I was at the final fight scene, and it just glitched out, and my PS4 shut off. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, why would you? I was like so built up, and I was like hyped up. I was like, okay, here we go. This is it. And then it just shut off. I was like, no. So luckily, I was able to quickly turn it back on because the girls were waking up. I was like, come on. I just got it back on in time, finished the fight scene, and then all I had left was the epilogue. So then Shannon was like, well, if you want to finish the epilogue tonight, go for it. I was like, okay, cool. So then once the girls went to bed, I hopped back on and just watched the end.
So, the theater fight was at like 1:30 a.m. for me.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh, great. I'm almost there. and I finished at 5 a.m.
Surprise!
I know.
You're like, wait a minute.
Yeah, so that's how it went for me. Yeah, I've just been playing MLB The Show.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice to just hop in and play.
Yeah. Those are always nice.
Yeah.
Just casuals.
And like, this might be too personal for this podcast, but I named my player after my brother. He has a very common name. For those listening, my brother passed away a couple years ago. He played baseball, and his name was common enough where they just straight up announce it when he goes up to bat, which is really cool.
Crazy.
And I hit his first home run in the major leagues, and it was a super cool moment.
Yeah, wow.
So it's like, that's like my connection right now, and I'm really enjoying it.
That's really cool.
Yeah. But I'm looking. I was gonna start Telltale's Batman, the first one, but I picked it up, and I started as like Bruce Wayne, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it later.
All right, I'm bored.
Yeah.
No, I started actually. I think I played that. I started playing that a long time ago, and I just kind of fell off of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think it'll get good. Everyone says it's almost as good as the Walking Dead ones, but it's just hard to get started.
Definitely.
All right, so why don't we skip ahead to what we're really here to talk about? The Last of Us 2. You beat it 2 weeks after I did.
Yeah, I did 23 hours and 40 minutes. It was like 144 collectibles. I played it on moderate the entire time. I never wavered my difficulty level. So I was proud.
I thought about it several times.
I bet.
But I think I finished at 20 hours and 50 minutes, 33% trophies.
Nice.
But I didn't look at the other stuff.
Nice.
So we're gonna we broke it down into 5 sections that we'll talk about. First will be visuals, art and world design, sound design and score, gameplay, acting, and story. Although some of these did seem to blend quite a bit.
Yeah, there was a couple where I was like, well, this could be either one, but it's fine.
Yeah. They're mostly short until story, so
right.
The important part.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's start it off. What did you think of the art design of the game?
Well, first of all, the level of detail was insane. Everything looked really good. Every once in a while I'd get I don't know if you got this, but I got the occasional like polygon reveal. Like when I was in the water and stuff, I would see the occasional like triangles popping up in the ocean. But honestly, it was so rare. And I think at one point like the world turned upside down on me when I was Ellie. Yeah.
And what would happen to me sometimes is like at the end when you're talking to Dina in the kitchen, it cut to her and she was just standing there straight faced. And then she cut back into emotion, and I thought it was like a weird dream sequence.
Oh god.
But it was just a glitch.
Oh man.
So yeah, that was
it didn't
creepy.
Happen. That would have been. That didn't happen too often though, like for me. But yeah, it just you could tell they put in a lot of work. Just like the foliage, like I even told, like I mentioned earlier, like in a few podcasts earlier, like the moss on the rocks, like just so much detail they put into this game. They nailed the look of Seattle and Santa Barbara. Like
Yeah.
they looked-
I wish we got more Santa Barbara because I actually much preferred the look of that, and it felt very different from the first game.
I agree. Well, it's really funny because I actually listened to a couple of other spoiler casts, and I guess Neil Druckerman was saying that Santa Barbara was actually supposed to be almost twice as long. Like they were supposed to be in Santa Barbara for a lot longer. And once we get to the story conversation, I'll tell you a little bit about it, what they were saying. But it would have been
like it for its placement. I don't want that time of the game to be twice as long. I just wanted there to be more reason to be there earlier.
Exactly. By the time I got to Santa Barbara, I was like done. I was like, okay, let's just get through this. I am so done with this game, not because I was hating it, but just because it was like, let's just move on. That's kind of where I was. I was just waiting for the ending.
I like Joel's beard and his hair were like the first thing that stuck out to me. Like,
looks so good.
Look at those gray hairs. Like,
I know, right? I was like, man, made me feel old.
Yeah. Like the draw distance was really good. Sometimes I'd have things pop in every now and then, but nothing was game breaking. Like, it was like visual art that was like almost a 5 out of 5 for me.
Gotcha. It was insane because I love what they did. Like, because I think they had mentioned it in the state of play, how they expanded so much on the map vertically. I loved that they did that. Like you'd have to climb these really tall buildings. There were times where it felt like it went on for too long. But I just really enjoyed how much they played with the verticalness on the maps, I guess. Also, the horses looked much better.
Not to get into the story too early, but the part where you're going with Lev to get the supplies, and she goes, "What if I told you we can get there and back in 2 hours?" And I'm like, "Oh." And then I started to realize that it was actually 2 hours of gameplay. And I was like, "Because you're going up these buildings to go like to the skyscrapers," and I'm like, "Oh." That
was actually one of the sections I was like, "This is too long." Like that just dragged.
Yeah,
but
like. It was like one of those movie things where they're like, we have 9 minutes left, and it's actually 9 minutes of movie time.
Yeah, or like...
But 2 hours?
Or like watching the end of a football game.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be like, it's 5 minutes left on the clock. 3 hours later.
I know.
That's actually, pretty much,
that's real football, too.
That is real football.
Timeout, commercial, 2-minute warning, and it's like an hour.
Yeah.
But really enjoyed... great exploration. It was nice to have like a lot of not in the last game they would stop you by just blocking the stairs.
Right.
This time there was more room to check everything out.
Yeah, no, I took my sweet time walking through those buildings for the first I'd say for the first half of the game. I was legit walking through those buildings and looking at everything and just taking in every little detail because it was just so beautiful. And yeah, but eventually, like once I was like halfway through Abby's section, I was like, I can't walk anymore. I have to just get through this because I'll be here for like a month. I'll be here for like 2 months playing this game if I just try to be too immersive with it.
Yeah.
I did laugh though because when I first started playing, the first few hours of the game was all snow, and all I could think of was Red Dead Redemption 2. I was like, great, another game where it's really slow and we're in the snow for like hours.
Yeah, luckily it didn't last too long.
Snow looked good though.
It did. It was It would have been like it'd be nice if time moved more, but obviously it was a very narrowed story.
Yeah.
We keep moving the story. Let's move on to sound design and score. I don't have a lot to say about it because I'm not a sound junkie. I just know the soundtrack was amazing.
It was.
And I thoroughly enjoyed that you were able to play the guitar.
Yes.
I've seen videos where someone played "Nothing Else Matters" by Metallica.
I saw that too. I
saw like "Pain" by Johnny Cash, and then "Here Comes the Sun."
So good.
Like people were so creative with it, and it was a really cool thing like to add. Like it must have been a pain in the butt to design.
Well, Neil Druckerman, I guess, was saying that they actually had a whole team that actually brought that idea up. They said, no, we can actually create this to where people can actually play this guitar. And he was like, that's a little out of my that's beyond my my whatever. But they were like, yeah, go for it. And he was just really impressed with what they had done and allowed he didn't expect as many people to play with the guitar like they actually did. Like he had no idea that was going to be a thing.
Yeah. Which Spoilercast did you listen to?
Beyond.
Got it. I listen to Kind of Funny Games, so
Gotcha.
yeah. Okay, got it. Okay. Yeah. Any other thoughts on sound design from you?
Yeah, I know the obviously just everything about the soundtrack was amazing. The morose guitar between sequences was it just really set the tone, and I just loved it. Like every time it would cut from like Seattle Day 1, Seattle Day 2, like that really sad guitar, it was just so perfect. It just really set the tone. But some of the best sound was at the workbenches. Like all the intricate sounds that they used when they mixed in with those little detailed animations for cleaning the gun and adding on like the safety, and just it was so crisp and so clean, and it was just amazing. Like all the little animations they did for just the workbench was impressive.
It's definitely the most in depth I've seen that from a game, because they're like,
Yeah.
add a scope, and they're like scope.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, exactly. But it was such a small thing that they made feel so important and memorable. Especially like every once in a while, they'd be like, "What are you doing?" Somebody would be actually like asking you what you were doing. So you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm actually, changing my gun a little bit."
Did you get to the one where you were at the workbench and then someone attacked you from behind?
Dude, yes, that scared the crap out of me.
Because I just heard the footsteps.
Yeah, I was like, no. I was trying to back out so fast out of the menu.
That one was really upsetting to me, because they clearly thought we were like that. Ellie was a wolf.
Right.
And so I went through that sequence like 25, 30 times trying to end it with no one dying.
Oh yeah, and you can't, because
every time they wanted to kill me.
Yeah, the door's closed, and so you can't actually like...
You can't get out, you can't talk them into reason. I tried holding someone hostage and like just aiming and like aiming away, and they're like, no, this is it, you're gonna die.
And see, that's a conversation we could have like for hours. Like, what happens if you could do that? Like completely change like the concept, like the action of a game, without actually knowing that you actually had that option to do so. Like that'd be amazing.
I think this game clearly had a story and an ending they wanted.
Of course.
But I think decisions like that still could have happened.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that actually really scared the crap out of me. And it's really funny because I thought I checked every room and I didn't. So.
Well, there was a locked room.
Right. That was the door that they were locked. They were all sleeping in there. That's what they were staying.
So there was no way to get in there before they attacked you.
No. But yeah, sound design, it was well mixed. Sound design was great. The creature sounds were amazing. All of the hard melee hit sounds were like they sounded so much more brutal this game. Like the bone cracks, the heavy pickaxe hits. It just all sounded so good. Yeah.
Yeah, that was
really
another
well
thing, like near perfect, like 5 out of 5. Liked it a lot.
Yeah, it was great.
But moving into next, we had the gameplay.
Right.
What were your thoughts on the gameplay?
Well, they kept what worked, obviously, because it was literally just Last of Us, gameplay. They didn't change much, but then they just enhanced it. Like they added jumping, which kind of gave it like an Uncharted vibe. I loved how they used dodge. I loved dodge, like utilizing that like while you're on the ground and stuff about to get hit. I thought that was super fun. Being able to go prone, that was really cool. Just like some really nice additions. Also like getting knocked back with the gunshots and having to the chance to like take your next shot while you're lying on your back. It just felt so much more visceral. So the little elements that they did add, I thought really just rounded it out nicely. But ultimately it was the same gameplay. It was just they kind of beefed it up.
I felt like there was nothing as of note. Like it was just very minor tweaks, and it's like, okay, we think the first one was good enough. And to me, I'm like, that was my least favorite part of the first game. Was
fair enough.
Building up for a Shiv, which was really nice, not to have to get Shivs as Ellie, nice. And then you get to Abby, and you're like, I got to do it again.
It just seemed like Abby should have had a combat knife or something. Like she's like this. Like she's like this elite, soldier for like the WLF, and it's like, why don't you have a combat knife? Why are you making? Or at least like
make her strong enough to choke out a clicker or something. She's got those big arms. Like, make it an advantage. Like
snapping their neck or something would have been cool.
Yeah, it was. Someone mentioned online that it felt like when you were Abby that you were fighting as Joel. But I didn't feel that way, honestly. Like I just felt like she was swinging wildly. I tried to play her as like a run and gun, like because that seemed like who she was. I didn't do any stealth with her. I just started killing people.
That's kind of what I did too. Like, but I did have a couple moments where I'd be stealthy, but I played exactly like you did. I was just like hard hitting, run and gun. Like I actually enjoyed that. I actually enjoyed being able to play as Ellie super stealthy, and then having the chance to like just be completely like wild and just throw punches with Abby. So honestly, I kind of liked the differences of my play style just based on who they were. So I did actually enjoy that.
And not only because I thought it fit the character, but the levels go a whole lot quicker one way or the other if you
They do.
I'm like, oh great, they're all dead. Now I can just go. Or like,
Right.
I'm dead. Damn it. I was hoping the dogs would be a bigger mechanic.
Yeah.
But it only made things like slightly more difficult.
Yep.
Definitely going prone to me was the biggest change that they added. They had less ladders to move, which was great, but now they had rope, which you were creative with.
Rope was actually using the rope was really fun. I actually enjoyed that. Some of those puzzles with the rope were fun.
I liked that there was sometimes different ways that both ways worked.
Yes,
but
yes.
It just felt like I'm like, oh look, another rope. How convenient. Dodging, I liked dodging, but it felt like super unresponsive sometimes and very clunky.
Interesting.
Like sometimes I would like nail it, and then I felt like I would do the same timing, and then I would just get like batted around. It was awful.
It's like a pinata.
It definitely wasn't as satisfying as like Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, Spider-Man dodges are like epic.
Yeah. Where's my spider sense, Ellie? Come on.
Yeah, because it was like it was a dodge, and then it was like a special move right after the dodge.
Yeah. Sometimes it just felt like the number of bad guys was super overwhelming.
Yeah, I agree.
So there was a couple of the fights where after like 10 or 15 times dying, I just ran through because I knew where the door was at that point.
Yeah.
And at one point, it seemed like you were actually supposed to run through because then you trip down the hill, and that's where they reveal that Jesse is there.
Well, there's always so many of those moments where it's like they go to the next section and they hurry up and quickly slam the door and then lock it behind them. Where it's almost like you feel like maybe I was supposed to not make it through and like barely, you know.
Yeah, either that or they had a different small cutscene for if you made it through stealthily. I don't know.
I don't know.
I'd be super impressed if that was the case, honestly.
That would be actually really cool.
So that would be one of the reasons I would want to play it again.
Yeah, no, that'd be actually really cool.
I had a really hard time figuring out where to go a lot of the time.
I had that issue sometimes.
And I ended up using, like when I would get stuck, they had amazing accessibility options. I would turn on, you press a button and it'll tell you what direction to go. I had to do that like on more than one occasion.
Oh, interesting.
Because I just got so frustrated going in circles, and they're like, oh, you didn't know that you climbed this mossy rock to get on top of the truck to jump over the wall?
Right.
And so it was really nice to have the options there when I got stuck, but it just like sometimes everything looked the same and you could climb some things but not others.
Yeah. I think it happened to me one time. It was a fence, and I was like, oh, I could jump the fence? But I was like Ellie at the time, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize I could jump that high. Okay.
Yeah. And then, like, when you first get into Seattle, after the first big gate, there was a building that you were supposed to get in, but the front doors were locked.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried everything. I tried to break the stained glass windows, but those didn't shatter.
Oh, man.
And they're like, oh, no, you just go to the side.
Yeah, like,
oh. Damn it.
Dad.
And then as I feared, I did not like the parts of the game as much with no AI counterpart. But having like Lev and Yara there really saved some of the Abby parts for me.
I bet.
Like at the whole heights thing, I really liked having Lev there.
Yep.
Someone to bounce off of. But like when it's just you, it feels so. The tension's there, but when it's like running around too much, I just lose interest.
Yeah, it's no longer Last of Us. It's now just another third-person action adventure.
Yeah.
Or it's Uncharted, basically. Because Uncharted, there was plenty of moments where you were alone.
But there was also plenty of moments like when you were in the car together and you'd have a conversation and then you'd beat someone up and get back in the car and they'd continue the conversation.
Naughty Dog's really good at that. Like having the companion conversations. They're just really good at writing dialogue.
Yep. And it keeps it enjoyable, and it helps the pace. Like, especially if I'm dying 15, 20 times, and it's nice to have that other person there. Anything else to say on gameplay?
Yeah, the silencers were annoyingly weak. I went through them too quickly.
No
in general,
nail bombs. No nail bombs.
I know. I really did enjoy the trap mines though. The trap mines were like my jam. I was using those things on the shamblers so much. Also, I like the shamblers design. I forgot to mention that. But
those were
those are the new, like the faster bloaters, basically.
Yeah, the ones that like threw stuff at you.
They
and
threw
charged.
acid. Yeah, charge. Yeah, the charge. Yeah, the shamblers were cool. But I used the trap mines on the shamblers all the time because they were just so, like, they were so difficult. So then I'd basically just lay a trap mine and they'd be dead in one blow. So it was kind of nice. The amount of items that you like would equip was perfect because I found myself running out of one and then being forced to use another, which was nice because I actually feel like I had to utilize everything like on my person at least a couple times. So it was kind of nice being able to like force me to use these items and see how they actually worked, because then I actually felt more inclined to use them later. Because I was like, well, actually, I can probably use this for these situations next time because I've actually been able to see how it works. A lot of times in a game, you'll get tons of items and never use half of them because you're afraid you won't get any more later.
Yeah.
So that was nice with this, is you were able to kind of feel forced to use everything at least once.
Yeah, the only thing I really didn't use was the trap mines because every time I tried to set one up, it blew me up immediately.
I think what happened, well, for me, it was I would lay it down and then like a runner would come and like get too close, and then I would end up taking the hit. I'd take the explosion.
Like, I would set it and try to back away slowly. And it's like boom.
Oh, no really? It would blow you up? That's great.
It blew me up.
Well, that doesn't make sense because you can actually pick them back up after you lay them down.
I don't know what happened. It happened like 5 times in a row against one of the new big guys, and I was so upset.
Oh man, that does suck. Oh yeah, sorry. I guess the guitar was a great addition. We talked about this, the music, but the guitar was so cool. And honestly, like the "Take on Me" cover, that was like one of the best things ever.
Yeah,
I was like, man,
like
this
the Pearl Jam song was good, but like the "Take on Me" was really good.
So good. I was like, this is a beautiful moment. It was such a good moment. But yeah, stealth was very hard for me. I killed so many dogs. I don't know if it was just because I'm just getting bad at stealth, or or just I'm just really bad at being aware of my surroundings. I don't know, but it was really tough for me at some times. But yeah, honestly though, at some point the gameplay got a little repetitive, so that's when I started to just kind of run through the levels a little bit more and just kind of just fly by things, and stop looking for safes to open. Which every safe that I came across I opened, but I missed some safes, but
yeah, they just put them in the next room. It's like, this is a lot of effort. You could have just put it on the wall right next to it.
I know, right? May as well have just
give me my 3 bullets,
please. Yeah, so I don't know. It got a little repetitive towards the end, but honestly, in general, really solid gameplay. Just because they took what worked and then they just enhanced it. So
yeah, like sometimes it was too frustrating. Like this was the lowest score out of everything. Was the gameplay for me? I gave it a 3 out of 5.
All right.
Like it was fun, but like it was something I struggled to do for long periods of time.
It was definitely difficult. Like I definitely found this game to be a lot harder than the first one. Because like you said, the overwhelming amount of enemies, like in Santa Barbara, when you're trying to get to Abby with Ellie, there was like 13 or 14 dudes in like one hallway, and I just kept getting killed and killed and killed and killed because they were just like tough.
Yeah, like at some point it just felt cheap. Like I don't know. I was like, why are all these people here?
There was a lot of people. I was like,
there's not even a rambunctious commotion going on now.
Yeah, this is like planned. Like there was like 30 people just waiting for me around the corner.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep. So let's move on to the acting. I only have a couple notes on the acting because most stuff ties in with the story.
Yeah.
Jesse won me over immediately with the whole dialogue about Ellie kissing Dina.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
That whole guilting at the door. He goes, "I'm just messing with you. It's okay." And then she goes to shut it, and he goes, "But seriously, that was messed up."
Jesse was so cool.
He was good. Dina was amazing.
I loved Dina. She was one of my
loved
favorites.
her the whole, like from the moment you saw her to the end of the game.
I agree.
Excellently acted.
Yep.
The only real person I didn't like as a vocal actor was Owen. Everything he did felt very stiff.
I think his character just looked really stiff in general.
Yeah, like, and it felt. I looked him up, and it looked like he was more of like a screen actor, and maybe it just doesn't translate as well as it did for the other people.
Maybe.
To me, he was the actor weak link in the whole story.
Gotcha.
Everyone
I see
else
that.
did great.
I see that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, all around the acting was stellar. Like the voice acting, the motion capture was amazing. There was like one thing that really bothered me. like out of the entire thing. It wasn't Owen, but it was the freaking baby at the end when it's like cooing the whole time. Because I have 2 babies now, and I know like like when they're cooing and when they're ready to talk, right? And these babies were cooing. This baby was cooing like just making like just making like baby sounds, and then out of nowhere, "Hi, Auntie." I was like, what the hell? Did this baby just go from cooing to speaking perfect English? That threw me off so much. It was like way too obvious that it was like an adult doing a baby voice, and for some reason that just like took me out of it. I was like, that was horrible.
I think it's upsetting how many actors you look up of child characters are grown adults.
Yeah.
So I try not to do it anymore.
That's smart. But yeah, that was it. I mean, everything else was great. I loved the acting. My 2 favorite characters, aside from Ellie, were Dina and Lev. They were probably my favorite characters in the whole game. Yeah, by far. They were just really refreshing. They added so much to each side of the story, and it was like they were the characters that each side was fighting for, basically. Like it was what they had. Like one was trying to get revenge with the other, and the other one was trying to redeem themselves with the other. So it was like a really nice mirroring of those 2 characters.
Yeah,
it's really good.
I wish we got more Tommy. Tommy is supremely acted.
I love his voice is great too.
Yeah, and like he had that character had like a great arc, and he was very nuanced with it, and like just the way he would deliver specific lines. He was great. He might have been one of my favorite non-Joel and Ellie actors for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, so that was like a 4 out of 5 for me. That was
the acting was great. It was the facial animation was really good too. Like you could see more details.
Yep, like you were able to look at them and know how the character was feeling. Which is how far games have come, obviously. But
yeah, it was even cool too to like see them like when they snap someone's neck or stabs them in the throat. If you paused it to go in photo mode, you see like the expression on their face, like they're gritting their teeth and like squinting their eyes and like just putting like this hard effort into their face. It was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it was really like most of the time I would just pan the camera over to watch them die.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really well done. Next up we have the story.
The most important.
The yes. And if we've taken this long this far, imagine how long this part's going to be.
I know, right? Do you want to go over your favorite sections of the story first and then talk about like overall story?
I want to go over our favorite parts last.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Yeah, so do you want to go first, like, or do you want to like go back and forth?
We can go back and forth.
All right, let's go ahead and start where you started.
So this is obviously a story about many things, but it was about revenge, it was about redemption, but I guess ultimately what Naughty Dog was going for was empathy, using perspective. That was their driving force behind pretty much everything that they wrote.
A lot of people were like, this game is about, violence bad, but like to me the main thing was the cycle of revenge.
Yes.
And if you keep like going after it, it just doesn't stop.
Right. Yeah.
So essentially, yes, violence bad.
Yeah, but that's a good point. That's a good point. It was I guess the whole point was like we tend to like when we play pretty much any scenario, when you don't know the side of the other person, and if they've done something horrible and we don't actually know their reasoning behind it, we immediately dehumanize them, and we tend to do that in games a lot, I guess, as well. But this was something that Druckerman was saying, how they were trying to have a stop and think for a moment and go, okay, we can't immediately just dehumanize the other person without actually hearing everything or getting the entire side of the story, because sometimes you may understand a little bit better, where they're coming from. It was just amazing. Like I think I mentioned this to you, but I think it's the first time in gaming history where they got you to hate a character and then play them for like 10 plus hours.
Yeah.
Like that, like regardless of how people have felt about it, like, good on Naughty Dog, man. Like that's ballsy. That's the only way, really ballsy. Like I will agree that it's ballsy. It's a big risk. Like it's a huge risk you're taking, because in the testing, apparently, there were a lot of people who were like, no, I'm not playing. I'm not playing Abby. Like I'm not gonna. I hate her. But then there was also another side of people who they were like, okay, fair enough, you got me. Like I get it. I see what you were going for, and I appreciate it.
I think they could have accomplished it without making us do it for 10 hours. Like, you could have told the story you want to tell and gotten me as much as on her side in like 5 to 6 hours tops.
I see what you're saying. It was a little difficult because I didn't really. I think ultimately I didn't actually empathize with Abby, but I understood Abby.
Yeah.
Like I was able to go, okay, like she's justified in her actions because of what happened, and because if you think about it, like they didn't know Joel. Obviously, they don't know this man. They've only heard what happened and seen what he'd done.
Yeah,
he had killed her father, and he had taken probably the only chance away from the Fireflies to find a cure to save humanity, right? So they built this man up as like some monster, you know?
Yeah.
And you could see it like too when they were like killing Joel. Like some of them looked very scared of him, like, whoa, it's him, it's the dude, like this is him. It's the guy. Like they were scared of him, like he was like this monster, but we know Joel, like we know who he is and why he did it. But they didn't, you know, and all they knew was what had happened in the aftermath. But yeah, I like again, I didn't empathize with Abby. I think it's because they didn't flesh her out as well as they could have. I think it could have been fleshed out a bit more. But honestly, it's possible that the fact that we got to spend, 12 hours with Ellie prior to this game, that may have helped a little bit,
Yeah, my problem with Abby is that she just didn't seem passionate or interested about anything. Like, even when she was, like, killing Joel, she's like, I'm gonna get you for what you did. I'm so, like, I just felt nothing from her. Like, I didn't feel bad for her. I was mad, but not necessarily at her. Even when she killed Joel, I'm like, I was lackluster. Yeah, coming from her, but her personality was carried by everyone around her. There wasn't one time where I'm like, oh yeah, or like equally upset when something bad happened to her.
There was one moment that did that for me, but I'll mention it when we go over our favorite parts.
And I think I know what it is, but I still felt worse for the other. Like, I felt for the other people, but I didn't feel for her.
Right.
So I think if they had her show any kind of passion one way or the other,
right,
I might have felt something for her. But she accomplished what she wanted to do. She killed Joel, and she did it violently.
Yeah, she got what she wanted. She killed the man that killed her father.
And even after that, she goes back home and it's like life is meaningless. Which I get, like, the point of, like, revenge doesn't solve what you hope it will.
Right.
But she just felt there. I don't know. Like, well, that's even when I was playing her, I wasn't rooting for her at all.
Well, that's what happened to Ellie too, though. Like when she was about to kill Abby and she let her go, she went back to nothing, and life immediately became meaningless for her because she had spent all this time putting all the emphasis on, well, I'm gonna kill this woman for killing Joel, and she doesn't follow through with it. But she sacrificed so much to do it, and she came away with absolutely nothing and wasn't even able to follow through.
But then she comes back after the whole theater scene, and she has this, like, life. She's living with the guilt of having not followed through with it and not being able to avenge Joel the way she wanted. But, like, she still had, like, an interesting, like, pre-epilogue moment where it's like, oh, this is what her life looks like now. But, like, Abby, it was just, like, back to being miserable, I guess. And, like, Ellie had this interesting thing so that when she tore it away to extract her revenge again, you were like, no, don't do it, you idiot.
Dude,
no.
I was yelling. I was like,
she loves you. Stay for her.
Yeah, that's one thing that this game did, I think, ultimately, is it made me mad. Not because of what they did, but it's because of the situation. It was like, this is such a crappy situation for everyone, and they all just made such horrible decisions. And it was just hard to watch, or hard to play through at times because it was just so upsetting seeing all these people just die and it all just meaning nothing in the end. It was really powerful in that sense, but at the same time, it was like so upsetting. But I don't know. I think the only thing they did well with Abby was her showing her vulnerability with like the vertigo and her insecurities. Like even her acting, like you could see it. Like she had like this tough demeanor, but all like underneath all of it, she seemed really insecure, and I think that shine through for me. So I think ultimately, like, if I took anything away from her character, they did a really nice job, I think, of showing her vulnerability. Which especially when, like, Lev was that was great. When Lev was saying, when they're on the bridge, he's like, "Hey, what was with that with you and Owen? That was awkward."
Yeah,
he was trying to like take
me,
her mind off of the height issue.
To me, it came across as like lack of interest in anything going around. Like Owen was showing her this cool like thing he made, and she's like, "Wow, that's really nice. Oh, look, a whale." Like, it just didn't feel like she cared about anything. Even when she went back for the other two, she's like, "Well, I just had a dream about you, and I felt like I should be here."
She cared about winning that dart competition inside the aquarium, though. She was set on doing that.
I was competitive enough where I got the trophy for her.
Nice.
Like, I had most targets Abby. Hit. Like,
I'll give you one.
And it was really nice that it got Owen in trouble later. So
yeah, that's actually really funny.
It felt like she was disinterested in anything that went on the entire game until Santa Barbara.
Right.
So the two things that people were upset about when the leaks happened were Joel dying,
right,
and you playing the second half of the game as Abby, who at that point many people thought was transgender.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an issue that people created, but we don't even have to touch on that.
I mean, we can a little bit. I mean, I think that's ridiculous. First of all,
yeah,
like who cares? But secondly, if you play, it's clearly not like some people were saying that. Oh, I think she's some transgender or whatever. It's like, no, if you actually play the game, she's not like
anyone who brings up that now, I'm like, oh, you didn't actually play the game.
No, yeah, exactly. It's like you're just ignorant. You're just saying stupid stuff because you don't. Yeah, that really upset me. I didn't understand. It's just really, is the ignorance that really just kind of made me upset about that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too preachy, but that just kind of
no, but yeah, I absolutely agree. It wouldn't have made a difference to the story for me.
No,
not at all.
I mean, I wouldn't have expected. I mean, I guess it would have been like, oh, okay. I would have thrown me off just maybe a little bit because it would have been the first time I think in gaming history that would have been a thing. I think,
at least for like a character you play as
AAA too, like a AAA character you play. That'd have been the first time. So it'd have been like I would have stopped him like, oh, okay, but I wouldn't have mattered.
Yeah,
But it's like even like with Ellie being a lesbian, like Naughty Dog does so well at not doing the look, I'm gay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they do such a good job of just keeping it human. It's like making people realize like these are all humans. They have emotions, and that's it's not cringy. It's like, okay, yes, this is it. It's beautiful the way they portrayed it.
Yeah. Like, so. And I think Left Behind alluded to it. And I think there was like a comic that really like hammered it in that Ellie was a gay character, but like I always just kind of felt like she was, and they didn't. I really appreciated they didn't make this whole big storyline about it. It's just like, oh, Ellie likes Dina.
Yeah, exactly, cool. And that's all that matters. That's all that matters.
So it was really nice. And I hate to just jump away from the issue, but
no, not at all.
But to people being upset about having to play as Abby for 10 hours,
yeah,
I like when it went back to Seattle day one. I was like, okay. Maybe it'll just pop to the big moments,
yeah.
And then you learned a new recipe for a weapon, and
you're
I was like,
"Dear God,
oh no, I'm playing all the I was so upset." And that's when I texted you. I'm like, I don't think I could finish this game.
Oh,
but I found great satisfaction jumping off of every tall building I could. The animation was always amazing. When she fought against Ellie, I took great satisfaction in her getting shot in the face.
Oh my God.
And we'll I don't know if I should talk about the theater fight scene now, or if you want to wait till we get to it.
I mean, that's fine. Whatever. I
had a really hard time fighting as Abby against Ellie.
That was hard. That was
really hard. Because a lot of the times they would do the thing where you had to mash square.
Yep.
And I would set down the controller, and I'm like, maybe I have a choice not to kill Ellie.
Right? You're like, nope.
And I'm like, nope, I just got shot in the face, which not a bad thing, but
but not gonna do it again.
I do want to progress in the game.
Yeah, I want to finish this at some point. I've gotten this far.
I thought maybe I would get to a point where I could make Abby stop.
Right.
But obviously it was a cutscene where it happened.
Right.
So I did appreciate Abby's story because of Lev, because of Yara, but I do think it was drawn out way too long, and I think they were trying to prove a point, but they could have done it in so much less time.
I agree with you. I mean, I think that's kind of what I mean. It was about her redeeming herself after, committing murder. And Lev was like perfect for that, and Yara, they were just like, there was like this soft and innocence and like sweetness about them, and she just treated them so well, and just like the one thing I'm gonna mention, like one part that I absolutely loved, it was when she had told Lev, "You're my people."
That was her best moment by far in that game.
Easily the turning point for me with her. I was like, okay, I get it. Like
that was like the big emotional. That was her one emotional point where she where like,
you're right.
Lev was like, "Your people did this," and then she's like, "No, you're my people now," and I'm like,
yeah. Your guess.
That was it. Like I was like, "Oh my god."
That was her defining redemption moment, though, and I think that's where for me it turned. I was like, okay, I'm sold. Yeah. Like not that I
sold,
empathize
but
with her.
I'm like, I don't need you to die at the end of this game. That was
exactly. It's like I understand what you did because you did it, and I don't hate you for it, but I hate that it had to happen.
Yeah,
because of what happened. Like everything just was so messy, and she was so determined to just revenge her father that it was bound to happen.
Yeah,
but that was it for me with Abby.
Yeah. How did you feel about the death of Joel?
The death of Joel was horrible. That was like brutal. It was super brutal, and it was just really sad. Like watching Ellie watch him and her crying. It was like that was really rough, and he couldn't even like say goodbye. And like the thing with the Joel and Ellie, it's like not to jump away from the death, but it was kind of nice to see their story resolve a little bit. But it's also really sad and heartbreaking because they were literally going to go watch a movie the day that.
So that was a throwaway line in the beginning when she was with Dina. She's like, "What do you think you're going to do tonight?" I'm going to see if Joel wants to watch a movie.
Yeah.
And at that point, you don't know the context of what had happened.
Exactly.
Like the night before and when it was like the big reveal of what Joel had done.
Right.
And so it was like a throwaway line that stuck to me. And then when you think about it later, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, she was going to forgive him, and they were going to make amends.
So we're jumping all over the place with the story, but
it's fine.
At the end when it shows the cutscene where Joel steps in after that bigot makes those comments about her and Dina kissing, and she goes, I don't remember her exact words, but she's like, "I don't need you to watch over me. I can handle it myself.
Yeah.
Get out." And I thought that was the last thing she ever said to Joel.
Oh, I know.
And I was like, the guilt. That poor girl has to live with that final memory for the rest of her life.
And luckily she didn't.
Luckily that wasn't the final thing, which was...
Yeah.
Like her last thing is like, I don't know if I could ever forgive you, but I'd like to try.
Yeah, and that was, I think, like Joel broke down slightly. He was holding back his tears.
You heard the crack in his voice, but like he stayed stoic.
Yeah.
And on the Kind of Funny Games, they revealed that scene was supposed to end with a hug.
Oh.
But when they were playing with it, both of the actors felt like that wasn't the right thing. So they filmed it, but then they kind of played around with it and got to where they got. And while Neil was like, the hug was the better scene, but in context, this one by far made the most sense.
Right.
So they went with that one, and I'm really glad they did. Like, not once in the first game did Joel and Ellie hug. Like, he carried her. That's about
true.
As close as I got. That wasn't their relationship, and that wasn't. I don't think that'd be a decision she would make at that point.
Makes
in
sense.
their relationship.
Yeah, it would have been forced.
Yeah, so I was really touched by that last scene, and it felt really realistic and grounded.
Yeah.
So a lot of people were upset about how Joel died. Not only that it was early, but a lot of people were like, Joel wouldn't have just gone into that house like that. That's not Joel. Joel didn't trust anybody. How did you feel about that?
I don't know. I mean, I got immediate bad vibes as soon as like they walked in there. I was like, oh no, this isn't gonna go well. But I mean, he had to die somehow. And honestly, they wanted to just jump into they wanted to jump into the game, and unfortunately, that him dying so early, I think, was necessary, I guess.
Yeah.
But I agree. It was kind of like I feel like Joel may not would have done that, but I don't see how else they would have gotten there so quickly without doing it that way.
I think like his job with Tommy for 4 years, maybe 5, was to go to other people's camps or find people, gain their trust to bring them into their society. And like,
right.
That was his job. He was becoming like someone who could like be in these environments and talk people into trusting them.
That's true.
And I think that would like, especially with his brother at his side, I think that is cause for some kind of complacency. Like,
right.
Joel was a bad person. He was a smuggler. He's killed countless people and like screwed over so many. But right. I think he just grown complacent and he was feeling pretty confident. Like, he just saved her life. Like, what reason would he have that this girl he just ran into would be hunting him down?
Fair enough. I agree. I mean, it was too coincidental for that to be a thing. Like, well, yeah, why would this random woman we came across be trying to kill me?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was the perfect starting point for Ellie's rage. It really got the players in the same headspace. Like, I think this game did an amazing job of really making you feel, especially for Ellie. Like, when she was mad, I was mostly mad because it was spoiled for me, but I was still mad.
Yeah, me too.
And so at that point in the game, I was just like her. I'm like, we have to go get Abby, and she has to die. Like,
right. And it was amazing how many people she killed. like if you go back and look how many people she killed, like, wow, she killed so many of her. She killed pretty much every single friend of Abby's to get to Abby.
And she was trying so hard to be Joel while she was doing it.
Oh, totally.
But it just, like, she tried the map trick with at the aquarium.
Yeah.
But, like, she was inexperienced. She wasn't sure of herself, and it fell apart. And that's when she had to, like, she almost got stabbed herself and killed the pregnant woman.
Right.
And I really liked that theme of the game where she was trying to be, like, ruthless like him, but she had these moments of, like, holding back because it wasn't what she wanted to do.
Right. Poor Alice.
But she felt like she had to. Alice was the pregnant chick, right?
The dog.
Oh, that was the saddest death in the entire game.
I know, right? Like, especially with context, you're like playing fetch with the damn dog like earlier, and like, you really got to love Alice on Abby's story, and I was like, man.
Yeah, like, and you kill the dog before you know it, and I was still sad. I was like,
totally.
It's the first dog I killed, and I didn't even get a choice.
Yeah, and then like,
and then you play fetch with it like 4 times.
Yeah. And it was so sweet. It would come back and drop it gently for you, and
it didn't even care that Yara was like a scar. Like,
no. It was like, oh, you're gonna throw this for me. Here you go.
You're my best friend.
Oh, poor Alice.
That was the worst death in the
horrible.
Game. Like, yeah. So, I'm okay with Joel dying. I think that was the perfect. Like, I was like, what if they killed Dina? But you didn't care enough about Dina yet,
right?
And like, it had to be Joel.
It needed to sting.
Yeah, it did, and it really stung. And he got to live on through his parts, like through the flashbacks, which I really appreciate, because like it always felt like he was there.
Yeah, it was nice.
Some people suggested like, oh, I might have liked it better if it was in chronological order. Like, if you had to play back and forth as Ellie and Abby, so that way when she got to killing Joel, you would understand why she did it. And I don't buy into that either.
Yeah, it's...
I think to tell what they wanted to tell, you had to see her do it and then learn why she did it.
Oh, totally. No, the way that they did those flashbacks and the order that they did them was perfect. And honestly, what's really interesting is that when I was trying to think of my favorite moments with Ellie, I actually had a hard time because I had spent so much time with Abby, at the back half of the game. And I think that was necessary because you really had to separate yourself from each character to really for them to try to actually make what they were trying to do work. Because if you had to go back and forth, I guarantee would have been a lot harder to find some kind of siding with Abby. Whereas you were forced to just spend all this straight time with her, and I think it worked a little bit that way. So,
like, with people, they were also like, well, you would have had a harder time killing Owen and the pregnant chick if you would have known so much about them. But I think it was a much more powerful moment for, like, Ellie to kill them thinking they're evil, and then knowing the context and knowing what Abby's about to walk into. Created a much more powerful moment, and like it put me on their side a little more, knowing what their fate was going to be.
Totally.
A lot of the people you killed showed up in that second act. Like even the PlayStation Vita chick, she was at the hospital, and you're like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm like, "Oh, Ellie stabs her later in the throat. It's sick."
Yeah, my favorite. I think I keep spoiling because I keep on talking about my favorite scenes. But it was the one where she like murders that one chick after they fell down into the spores, and she's I'm gonna make you talk, and like, she brutally like kills her like down there, and
because that's something Joel would do.
Exactly.
And then you like she gets back to Dina, and like, she's like, she gave me the information. She said I got her to talk. Disturbed. Yeah, she was disturbed by what she did.
It was so bad. I was like, wow.
I loved when they're down there and the other chick realized that Ellie was breathing.
Yes.
And she's like, oh no.
That was I know. It was like, oh no. It was so badass. I was like, yeah. That's right.
Oh, or when Ellie's mask breaks and Dina goes to take off hers to give it to Ellie.
Oh my god. No.
I really liked how they played it.
It was great.
I really liked going with Ellie, the scene where Joel reveals what he had done. Like, you go through the whole game not knowing if Ellie knows.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, is Ellie... I figured from the beginning that the people from Wolf were somehow related to the Firefly building that Joel shot up.
Right.
But then you spend the entire game wondering if Ellie knows that's why. Right. And if she was going to find out from Abby what Joel had done.
Right.
But they allowed you to see the interaction between Joel and Ellie. And I was really glad you got that moment from them instead of her finding out from someone else.
Totally.
Because it felt like he died without completing his story, and later you find out that his story was complete.
Yeah, and that was so well done. Like, honestly, like out of all the storytelling that I think Naughty Dog had done, that was some of the best stuff ever.
Yeah.
It was so well done.
Yeah. And yep, I love the scene. It was, I mean, everything in that game was important storytelling to another piece of the game.
Right.
And like, so like that leading to her telling off Joel, leading to her forgiving him before he died. Like, that was, I really love that.
Yep.
I didn't like the death of Jesse. Like, it's fine
sad.
that he died, but like, it felt like shock value. Like, it's like, oh, like they just needed to get you to drop your jaw. It didn't feel like it was the culmination of anything.
I was like, Jesse!
Yeah. And then immediately you never talk about him again.
Never. I thought the same thing. I was like, what about Jesse?
Yeah. And then when they shot Tommy in the back of the head, I was like, ah!
And the fact that he popped up, I was like, I could have sworn he was shot in the head.
Yeah, when it was revealed to be him inside the house at the end of the game, my jaw dropped. I'm like,
how's that possible?
That was the most guilt I carried.
Yeah, right?
But they had him with one eye and that limp from the arrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was incredible in this game.
Apparently you can survive a gunshot to the head.
I was super disappointed with Isaac, the head of the wolves.
Okay.
They really built him up to be this antagonist, and then he hardly had any development, and as soon as you really saw him on screen, he got shot by Yara.
Yeah,
and then Yara was shot lots more times.
Yeah, oh god, that was horrible. Yeah, no, they were talking about Isaac's character, actually, how they actually had a lot more story with him, and they actually had like a backstory that you were going to play as Isaac, I think, or play with Isaac. And this was This Is Beyond podcast. But they had to make a decision because I guess it was just getting too long. And they're okay, what at the core do we just need to tell here? But apparently that he was going to actually have a much bigger part, like for his section.
Because I wish at that point that it wasn't Isaac that confronted her, that it was one of her friends from the cabin.
Oh, that'd have been
And
nuts.
I think it would have added so much more weight to the death, and it would have shown that those are no longer Abby's people. She's making the choice to side with Yara and Lev.
Totally, because Isaac could just seem kind of last minute of a character.
He did, like, and I appreciate that they were trying to really flesh him out, but they couldn't. But it did feel like an afterthought, and I felt like they could have just plugged someone else into that spot.
I agree.
Someone that we actually knew and cared about. Not necessarily cared about, but knew she cared about.
Right.
Yeah, like if it was like, maybe not the pregnant chick, but I don't know. If it was anybody else from the cabin when Joel died, I would have been happy.
That'd have been cool.
Going through my notes. I said, Tommy had an amazing art. I wish we got to see more of him because, like, clearly he was a badass like Joel. Like, when you'd come across the people that he tortured and killed before you got to him. Yeah. I was like, damn, Tommy's sick. But, like, you spend the whole game chasing him.
Right.
Were you shocked by the revelation that he was the sniper when you were playing as Abby?
Yes, I was like, "Oh no!"
What? Like, I felt like it was made painfully obvious that hey, it's Tommy. Like,
I didn't for me for some reason. I was like, "Why?" I was like, "Why are we dealing with a sniper right now?" I was just like, I think I was at the point where I was just kind of like trying to get through the game, and I was just like, I was just like kind of like zoning out a little bit. So I really wasn't thinking as to why is this sniper so important. God, I hate this. Like, this is like distracting from the story. And I was like, "Oh man," the whole time.
Because they made the big deal with Ellie at the end of the third day. They're like, oh, there's a sniper over there. And Jesse's like, I'm going to go get him. It's Tommy. And then Ellie's like, no, I'm going to the aquarium.
That didn't stick with me.
To me, that was like a big deal. And I'm like, man. Of course it's Tommy. Like, so I let myself get shot a few times there too.
I accidentally got killed there a few times, but yeah, that didn't
that's
stick with me.
That's where Home Slice died, right? What was his name?
Oh yeah, I liked his character. He was cool.
He was my favorite of her friends.
He was really cool. I forget his name, but yeah, he was really cool.
I would have really liked, like, it was a good death there, but if he took the Isaac part and died there, that would have been cool too.
Oh, that'd have been crazy.
But he seemed too close with Abby for him because he helped her escape and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of liked how he died. It was I'm like, oh man,
that was like a good shock death.
Ooh, that was yeah. You see his head explode. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah.
It was really good.
What else do I have in my notes? Do you have anything before we get to the end of the game?
No, that was pretty much it. Like, the end. I just kind of want to talk about the end.
It felt like a lot of endings were rolled over, and it just kept going.
Kind of like Lord of the Rings at the very.
There was like 4 to 5 times where I'm like, great, I'm done. Oh no. When they have the farm that you have with Dina, I like the tension for me was so high.
Yeah. I
kept waiting for Abby to show up.
Oh.
I like, and then you had to herd all the sheep into the barn and the ones in the dark corner, and I'm like, this is it. I'm about to get stabbed.
Yeah. PTSD moment.
Because I had accidentally run into a comment that goes, how dare you put that piece of filth Abby in the game and make us play as the woman who murders Joel and Ellie.
Yeah, I saw that too, and I was like, what? And I played, I was like, okay.
So I was super mad thinking that Ellie was about to die.
Yeah.
And so
Ever John Marston moment.
I'm kind of glad I read that comment because the relief that she didn't die was so big.
Oh my god.
So, and then Tommy shows up, and that was a big jaw-dropping moment for me. And watching this man who wasn't even like gonna go after Abby in the first place, so desperate to hold Ellie to her promise in the end of the game.
Yeah, that was rough.
Ellie just shrunk in her seat. Like the body language that they gave the character was like so strong.
I know. I hated that moment because I was like, man, come on, just let her live her life. Like, I get it. Like, she made a promise, but at the same time, it's like, look what you guys went through. You like nearly lost your life.
That's twice that Abby spared your life.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
And when Dina was about to die, I was.
Oh, he's slamming her head into the. That scared the crap out of me.
And then she like held the knife, and then Ellie's like, "Wait, she's pregnant." And Abby's like, "Good." And I was like, "If she does this, any respect I had for her is gone." Then Lev, my hero.
Yeah, no,
saved-
that was her redeeming factor. Like if it wouldn't have been for Lev, Abby wouldn't have done half the things that she did. Like at the end, like she wouldn't have let anybody live if it wouldn't have been for Lev.
I think if it wasn't for Lev, either Abby would have died by Ellie's hands, or they would have left with Dina as planned, and then Abby would have shown up again to kill Ellie.
Interesting.
Like that's what I seem to get from it. Like if it wasn't for Lev, they wouldn't have gone back, and that confrontation might not have happened.
Interesting.
But yeah, it was. Anyway, where was I? I really enjoyed Santa Barbara, as I said. That was the first time I felt like Abby showed any kind of emotion when they got into the radio contact.
Oh yeah, that was.
And I was actually kind of like, great.
Yeah, I was happy for her. I was like, all right, she has a purpose now.
And then they introduced a new faction of characters.
You're like, no.
And I was like, how many more hours is this game?
Right. I thought the same thing. I was like, please, God. But he was a piece of crap, that dude.
And it was very satisfying how you got to kill both of them.
Totally. Oh, that was like so cool.
Ellie getting stabbed and then leading the guy to get eaten by the clicker.
Yeah, she's like, whatever, I'll get bit again. I don't care.
Yeah, when she got bit again, I thought it was going to be significant to the point where like this time it would affect her.
Yeah, it's like an allergy when you get stung by a bee once and then you get stung by a bee the second time.
I was like, oh no. But it was really nice to see them die. But I died so many times trying to get to Abby.
Right.
Like so many times.
Yeah, me too. That was hard getting to Abby.
Yep.
That was
tough.
tough.
And by the time I got to her, letting those people out was really cool.
Yeah, that was awesome.
I was like, don't kill Abby. What are you doing?
Yeah, that was seeing Abby strung up like that, and like as emaciated as she was, like, and Lev, and that was just like, oh man, this is brutal. Like if Ellie goes through with this, like I'd understand, but wow, this is rough. Like it was rough. Like even fighting her at the end, I was like, why are you doing this, Ellie? It's like, oh, I get it. It's like, but why? Like look at them.
She cut her down. I was like, oh, Ellie finally learned, and she saw what she went through.
Yeah.
She forgives her, and then she got that image of Joel.
Yep.
And that was a fight where I didn't feel the need to put the controller down. I just felt bad the whole time I was doing it.
Yeah, same here. I was upset about everything. I was like, this is just horrible. The whole thing was just sad.
Yeah.
It was bad.
And then Ellie's fingers got bitten off.
Yep.
Which ultimately led her to going back and realizing that her thirst for revenge ultimately cost her the last thing that connected her to Joel.
Yes.
Which was that song, and she couldn't play it anymore.
It's really funny because I didn't actually catch that at first. I was like, why is the guitar broken? And I was like, oh. I did not catch that till like the end. I was like, oh no. I was like, that's why.
Because that was the first thing they showed was her fingers. I know,
but I didn't,
when she got back.
I didn't think of it. I was too busy like anticipating something to happen, like Abby to be waiting at the farm or something stupid. And then she started playing. I was like, oh, she's gonna play the if I ever could, what was it, a good song? It's like I lose you.
It's a Pearl Jam song. I forgot the name.
Yeah.
Of it,
if she was like, oh, she's gonna play the song again, I was like, why does it sound like crap? And I didn't realize. I was like, fingers.
Yeah,
that's important for a guitar.
So after that, she leaves. No guitar, just a backpack.
Yeah.
Do you think that she starts afresh, or do you think she goes back to Jackson and hopes Dina will find forgiveness in her heart, just like she was trying to for Joel?
Well, I'm gonna add to that. That's a good question. The boat at the very end, at the end of the credits. Did you see that?
Yes. How
it was like that shining light on Catalina Island.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that Lev and Abby made it to Catalina Island.
Yeah.
So here's what I'm thinking is going to happen. This is Last of Us Part 3 is what I'm talking about. Like, what I'm thinking is going to happen, Ellie, her only purpose at this point is to die. To try to finish what Joel took from her. To try to see if her blood will actually, in fact, be the cure. And I don't know how it's going to play out, but that's the only thing. That's the only way I could see them take it, is for Ellie's next journey to be to end her life to try to save humanity.
Yeah,
So fresh. I agree. It's fresh. It's a fresh start, but it's to basically sacrifice.
I don't think she
herself.
would have gone to the Fireflies. But that, I don't know, because they said one point in the game, even if we did find her again, it wouldn't mean anything.
That's right, because he was the only man that knew how to extract the host.
Like, yeah, they would have to find like another surgeon that could do it.
That could be a thing. Like there might be someone who's actually able and capable to do it.
Yeah,
that possibly could be the driving force for Last of Us Part 3.
I still think that she went back to Jackson. Like,
interesting.
And then when they asked Neil and Abby's voice actor, or not Abby, Ellie's voice actor, they're like, we didn't really talk about it. And I think that's a lie.
Well, of course.
I think they did talk about it, and I think they are talking about it, like how the story might continue.
They have to.
So they didn't give a real answer. But
right.
My interpretation was she was going to go try again, because I think it was like she saw what revenge had cost her, because it gained her nothing.
Right. Well, here's something interesting, not to cut you off, but Neil Druckerman, they were talking about how Santa Monica was actually almost going to go completely different.
Yeah.
Where Ellie and Abby were actually going to join forces. Because they were going to come across somebody who was much worse than both of them, and they were going to work together to take down this new evil that they had come across. But they decided there was too much internal struggle between the two of them, and they didn't want to take that away from the story that was the whole purpose of the story in the first place. And they felt that it would have been cheating. Like,
if they introduced a new character and tried to get you to care about them in the last couple of hours, I would have been upset.
Well, Santa Barbara was supposed to be also twice as long. So that's what I was talking about. It was supposed to, because they were supposed to introduce this character that was supposed to be completely evil, that you were supposed to absolutely hate, and Abby and Ellie kind of like agreed to just take him out.
That would have been like a whole second game.
Exactly.
At the end of I would have been furious.
I know. It'd have been like an 80-hour like story.
Yeah, I don't even want that in the DLC or like
I know, right?
I don't want that Last of Us 3. I don't want
It's an alternate ending.
Ugh. No.
But anyway, what were some of your favorite parts?
Jumping off tall buildings is Abby. The spaceship scene.
Museum scene was my favorite for Ellie, I think.
Absolutely.
By far.
Yeah, I've watched that. I showed Emily on YouTube. Like, I've seen that scene several times.
So poignant and moving.
Yeah, the slow reveal in Ellie and Joel's final interaction.
Nice.
Was extremely well done.
Yep.
And I can't think. Those are the three things I wrote: jumping off tall buildings, the spaceship, and the
nice
interactions. Go ahead and reveal what's left of yours.
Well, yeah, obviously Lev trying to distract Abby on the bridge. That was great. I love that scene. The hanging scene with Abby and Lev coming out and then like Abby grabbing that chick by the neck and snapping her neck with her legs, and that whole sequence was amazing. Just like the way that it went from cinematic to in game was also just a beautiful transition.
Mm-hmm.
But I absolutely loved that whole sequence. Like everything about that whole sequence is great. Yeah, the museum scene as well. That was a big one for me. Ellie, like again, that reveal when she falls, the girl realizes she's not affected by the spores, and then she like kills her like by just beating her senselessly, and then Abby telling Lev, "You're my people."
Yeah,
those were my biggest
that
moments.
was for sure Abby's best moment. Like that was the one time I was like, I almost choked up.
Yeah, that was so good.
But it was almost also kind of like, all right, let's go.
Right. Like, yeah, I agree. I was like, that was absolutely beautiful. Let's finish this game.
Yeah. I wish if it was Ellie in the situation where the island was on fire, I would have enjoyed it more. Like I would have stopped to enjoy it more.
Gotcha.
But at that point, I'm like, I just want to get through this.
Yeah. So how are we on time? I think we're over. But...
We are very over. I'm actually, I'm gonna take a note of the time here because I think we should skip the game.
Okay.
and go right into give it an hour to keep this short.
I agree. What would you rate it?
Rating
out of 10.
7.5.
Okay, I was gonna give it an 8.
Okay, yeah,
8 because of just the pacing for the length of how long the game was. For me, it killed the momentum at times. But that was it. For me, it was just pacing. It was just too long in certain sections where I agree. Kind of lost momentum.
Like when the story was really moving and they're like, okay, now go for 2 hours. I'm like,
Yeah.
So
that's why I give it an 8. But I would have been, if it had been a shorter game, if it had been like, 15 hours, probably would have been a 9.
Yeah, I really think if they condensed Abby's story and hit important points, I would have enjoyed it a lot more.
Right.
But I just felt like we were at that point, like at so long, you just feel stuck with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it was good. I liked the first one better. Like the first one was like 8.5, 9 to me.
Right.
This one was good.
Yeah. So far, it's my game of the year. So
that's fair.
So far,
I honestly don't know what my game of the year is so far. I'd have to go back and look at it.
Probably Tony Hawk.
That'll be an end of the year episode for us.
Right. There you go.
That'll be nice. All right. Great. So that is a wrap on The Last of Us 2. If you've been covering your ears the whole time, spoilers over.
Right.
And I also feel bad for you because that was a really long time.
Yeah, it was a lot. But it was expected. It's a spoiler cast. These always go over most of the time.
So last segment is give it an hour. And we both played Coffee Talk.
Woohoo!
How'd you like the game?
Well, first, before we even go over how I felt about it, I actually want to read some of the reviews that we actually got from some of our listeners. So first of all, I want to say thank you guys for actually commenting and leaving your reviews. I think we're gonna keep doing this because I really enjoy. We really enjoy seeing what you guys have to say.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read a couple. VP Thompson MS_MS says, "I like the story and the music. I find myself invested in these characters." That's where he kind of left it. Yeah. Boondock666, been playing it a lot the past few days. Just put an hour in on some of my favorite days on the timeline. Freya is my spirit animal, honestly. This universe is such a colorful and likable place, and the backdrop with the newspapers shines a realistic light on discrimination in a fantasy setting. The stories behind the characters are very gripping and feel real, and that's something I treasure about Coffee Talk. And then the last one we got, Broly the Memer. I did a full playthrough as Broly the ISSJ. I couldn't really understand that. And can say the story, music, and gameplay are some of the best I've seen in a long time.
Great. Who's that second to last reviewer?
Boondock666.
That was a really good one.
It was yeah, that pretty much
that covers
everything that I feel about it.
Yeah. But why don't you go down your bullet points anyway?
Okay, well, first of all, first thing that came to my head when I popped in and I played the game, loved the intro and credits. It was like the perfect setup for its chill vibe. Like I was just like, okay, this is gonna be awesome, because it was so nice to have this game like in tandem with Last of Us for like the last week, because it was such a chill experience compared to this brutal, over the top, violent, and this was like super chill, relaxing, calm. So it was nice. It honestly made me want to open up my own late night coffee shop. I was like, this is such a cool idea. But it was everything. It was the rain, like the coffee, the chill music. All I needed was like a secluded cabin on a mountain surrounded by trees, and I'm easily like in the happiest place ever. So it was just a great kind of like escape for me from Last of Us, which was nice.
Yeah.
I loved how deep the stories were. I loved the werewolf and vampire story so far. Super creepy how the newspapers almost match exactly what's happening.
I know when they were talking about like some kind of pandemic, I was like,
the virus. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, wow. Yeah. Love all the animations. Like the sound is well done. The music's the best, obviously. But every time I'd hear like the coffee making sounds, I was like, oh, this is so nice. It was like just the sound of coffee being made. It's like, who knew that would be such a nice thing to listen to?
Yeah.
But for some reason, making coffee wasn't always easy to understand, even though I had like my phone that I could reference. Like, because every once in a while I'd be like, oh yeah, I know how to make that, and I'd mess up, and I was like, well, oh okay. It's like, for instance, like for example, I had to make like a ginger tea, and I didn't look at the ingredients, but I assumed, okay, well, it's green tea and ginger. but it must have been green tea, ginger, and ginger because I messed it up. Because they wanted it like super bitter, and it was like 9 out of 10 bitter, but it was wrong. And the customer would get disappointed, but I actually didn't know if it had an impact on the conversation at all, or if the story.
I hope so. There was a difference between green tea and tea, though, right?
Yeah, green tea and tea, they're totally different. Yeah, but like they wanted like a ginger green tea,
Oh,
and
okay.
I put green tea. I put 2 things of green tea and a ginger, which I probably was supposed to do 1 green tea and 2 ginger.
Yeah.
So it was like stuff like that I'd messed up. So I do think it might have impacted some of the dialogue, but I feel like it didn't impact too much.
Yeah.
But anyway,
because if it really felt like you did your thing and they're like, "Thank you, this is good," or maybe different next time. Anyway.
Yeah. It seemed like it didn't actually have an impact, which was fine because I think that's the whole point of this game is just to kind of enjoy the stories and just like simulate a coffee barista. So it was fun. Latte art was extremely difficult. The best I could do was like a smiley face.
That's what I did first, and then the elf was like, "You call this latte art?" And I was like, "Oh."
I was like, "Jerk." I really wish there was like actually default designs you could pick from, and then like
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think with how little gameplay there is, I was absolutely fine drawing my own thing, and I'm really glad it didn't actually make a difference on whether or not they liked it or not.
Well, because you can do it on every drink you serve, technically.
As long as it's a latte, because otherwise they don't give you the...
Yeah. If as long as it's a latte, you can do art, even if they don't ask for it, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So those are
How
my
far
main
did
points.
you get? How far did you get?
I got to Friday. I think it's like the 4th day or the 5th day.
Got it. I got to day 3 because I played like exactly an hour.
Okay, nice. I kept playing.
I loved the Seattle skyline at the beginning. It was like the intro was gorgeous. I agree. I don't know anything about coffee, so when she said I want a triple shot of espresso,
oh yeah,
and all you saw on the phone was espresso, and I'm like, here's this, and she's like, perfect. I'm like, oh, okay, great.
You just guessed, like, I guess it's just all coffee, or
I like that everything's on your phone.
Yeah.
The music they start with was like weirdly sensual.
Yeah.
And it's nice that you can go. There's not, at least not yet, a ton of music choices, but it's a cute little thing.
Yeah.
I really liked that you can make latte art. But I can't draw, so good luck.
Yeah, neither can I.
There's way less input than I expected. It's not even like dialogue.
No
dialogue options. It's just watching the story happen and hitting A.
Yeah, that's I guess the one thing I was gonna say, but yeah.
And so I wish, like, this is one of those games where maybe your choices don't have to influence the ending, but it would have been nice to have like different responses and reactions to your responses.
Yeah, like a smart ass comment or like a nice comment or a snide comment. Yeah, that I agree. That would have been a nice touch.
Yeah. I wrote every character is likable so far. Except until I got to Rachel, and I hated Rachel.
The one who turns into a cat?
Yeah, I hated her. I loved the police officer, though. He's my favorite character so far.
He is great. He's such a cool guy.
Yeah, I wrote I felt like it was an interesting picture book.
Yeah, that's actually a good explanation.
Or like maybe even a coloring book, like where you can color it a little bit, but otherwise you're just watching the story happen. And I am going to add it to my backlog. I really liked it, and I think it's a good game to pick up in between games or when I need a break for another game.
Same here. I'm doing exactly the same. Definitely going to the backlog.
Yep. All right. So next week we're still going to be give games to each other again. So we'll be playing different games, but we still encourage you guys to play along with us. You could either play one or both of us. Hit us up on email or social media to let us know what you think of these games. For Nathan, this one is on Steam. I'm going to have you play The Stanley Parable.
Okay.
And don't look up anything about it.
Sure. Typing this now. Don't forget. Yeah. Stanley Parable. My computer will handle this, correct?
Yeah, I was able, like, with my original computer build before I got a new graphics card, it ran great. So
great.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And for Jeff, you're going to be playing Return of the Obra Dinn. This is a game that I purchased on PlayStation. It's basically a murder mystery taking place on a boat, an old pirate ship.
That's dope.
And I'm going to tell you right now, I'll understand if you don't want to add it to your backlog, because it is by far the hardest murder mystery I've ever played in my entire life. It is unforgiving.
Okay.
So I'm curious to see how you handle it.
Well, we hope that you guys can play these games along with us, because it looks like it's going to be an interesting week.
Yeah, I know, right?
This is like Stanley Parable is a very out there game, and like I'm going to play it actually again this week too, because I'm not still sure I entirely get it.
Okay.
But it's more of an experience than a game. So I hope you like it.
Cool. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, that's all we have for today. It was a little longer of an episode, but I felt like the discussion was not bad.
No, not at all.
We hope you guys enjoyed it. Hit me up on social media, Zavadabadoo, and Nathan.
Early Bird Nerd, all the social medias.
Yep, and then you could hit us up, Twitter and Instagram. It's either Twitter is Backlog Beyond, and then Instagram is Backlog and Beyond, and then you can email us at contact@backlogandbeyond.com. Thank you guys so much for listening in. Nathan, count us out.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I hate you so much.